Guys, Akariss here, bringing another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Reaction time, my thoughts, the usual stuff. So if you don't know, because you haven't been following the vids, this is now recorded on Twitch, uploaded onto YouTube. The TLDR of why there's not as many YouTube videos is just because during the summer, there's more work for me as a teacher. I tend to cover summer school, and a lot of teachers go on vacation. And on that note, I'm actually taking a 2-week vacation as of the end of this video, so there won't be any more July videos. The next video you'll see is probably in August. Still gonna occasionally post maybe on YouTube, just in the community things, and give my thoughts on whatever the legendary, or mythic, rather the mythic that's coming up at the end of the month. And beyond that, there won't be any streams or YouTube vids after this until sometime in August. So that's pretty much the announcement I wanted to make before we, of course, talk about this banner. Now, also a different note, I haven't really looked into detail for these units, so it is more of a fresh reaction. That's kind of the advantage of me recording these on Twitch. It's that it's fresh. I don't have like the day to think about the units. So yeah, we are going to play the video and do what we usually do, which is talk about what's coming up. Let's do it. Actually, the first thing I wanted to say was it's interesting that we have an Ascended hero that isn't what we thought it would be. I think most people associate the Ascended heroes with like important characters from the games, but not necessarily the lords. So now we just have another Celica alt, Resplendent. I don't really even know what this is supposed to be. I feel like we have like the promoted versions. I believe it was like the Saint class for her legendary alt. I don't even understand like where the Celica is coming from. So if you're as confused as I am, just let me know in the comments below. And even clarify what exactly version of Celica this is. Shadows of Valentia and Echoes in general is one of my top 3 games, and even I'm kind of confused as to what's going on here. Either way, Ascended Celica, Infantry Tome, Mage, Colorless. Colorless mages I think are probably pretty good, since Raven Tomes aren't, or Raven effects aren't as popular. Okay, and first thing we'll see is in terms of fodder, she comes with Infantry Null Follow 3. Now, not to be a couple of things confused by this, as what I'll notice it is a start of turn buff, which means it does have counterplay in the form of Elamine. So if you choose to use this, let's say on an Anima defense team, well, it's going to be not super consistent if the Elamine user can just shut it down. However, a good way to play against Elamine, of course, is just to run multiple effects on different lanes. So let's say you have a Bridal Catria on one lane, you have like null follow-up, like this new effect, Infantry null follow-up on a different lane. The Elamine user has to decide between which lane they are going to shut down, and therefore it can still find a lot of usage. Null follow-up is still one of the strongest skills in the game, without a doubt. So yeah, start a turn buff. However, this can probably find a lot of use in other places, such as Summoner Duels, and in general just a buff to characters who have, let's say, preference B skills or don't have natural ways to get null follow-up. So in general, that's a Dimitri buff, because Dimitri really wants null follow-up, and that's a way to give him null follow-up through another unit on your team. So you could pretty much give this, let's say, to Dual Chrom with a legendary Dimitri team on, let's say, Summoner Duels, and you buff no follow-up on him, and then he does all that other stuff with Vital Astro. So there's some natural synergy there with units who don't naturally have no follow-up or cannot use it because they have like a preference B skill locking them out. She does have her own preference B skill, which is the same as her legendary alt, and this was already pretty good in my opinion. It still stands out, like it still is good because it's no follow-up. No follow-up is, again, one of the best skills in the game, and it's so strong that you pretty much want to use it, and it doesn't come with anything other than making everything a speed check. So still a solid B skill. It's not as amazing as maybe some other stuff, but it's still very, very strong because it's no follow-up at the end of the day with some extra stuff on it. Okay, and finally her preference weapon. So to kind of go over this one, it seems like it's a slaying weapon, an initiation clause, 2 space clause, just a bunch of easy stuff to meet, attack speed 6, and then having a like a tempo type effect on herself, or null guard on herself, whatever you want to call it, plus some true damage, so following the same kind of style as her legendary alt. Finally, she has a miracle type effect in her weapon as long as she's over 25% HP. I think this is pretty annoying because there's not really many ways to beat miracle type effects without either just literally killing them, like killing them twice, or using like a brave enemy phase brave type weapon. So I expect something like Celica here to likely be a very good, like, let's say, Summoner Duels unit or an air defense unit, potentially something like air offense, but since she does have kind of like initiation clauses, I'm not super certain on her being, let's say, like a tank or whatnot. But yeah, this is a solid unit, defense Summoner Duels for sure, with the design in mind. Also, if you missed it, just like what chat here is saying, the null follow-up buff is applying it to others. So it's more like a support type thing. You're giving null follow-up to your allies and not herself. Keep that in mind. It would likely work very good for, let's say, like dancers. Or units that are supporting in general. Dualcrom himself may appreciate null follow-up, so he may not want to be a carrier of it. So we have Valencia Est. This was expected because we had Valencia Catria, Valencia Pala, so of course Valencia Est is finally here to finish out that trio. She comes with a new flow feather. It seems like it's similar to the other flow type effects where you're getting the like checking stats and whatnot. This one checks speed. Well, actually, they all check speed, and then it checks res to do true damage based on that. Deals damage during combat, 70% of difference in res stats. So that just seems like she's going to do, or whoever you inherit this to, is basically just doing like more true damage based on the res stat. And as we can expect with Est, that's going to be a pretty high res stat, but you can likely fodder this off to some of your other player phase type flyers. I don't really find this having too much usage. I feel like Flow Guard is still going to be better if you're going to do, like, let's say, Gale Force strats, although some sort of true damage is always good, so I'm sure this will find some usage despite what my initial thoughts on it are. Okay, so the Lance. Now, she comes with Canto Rem as opposed to Valencia Pala, who comes with a flat Canto. I think Rem isn't as good as flat Canto. Generally speaking, Rem is pretty solid if you can get massive amounts of movement. So, Legendary Sigurd, I'm looking at you. Or just movement buffs in general. So, Legendary Azura or Dual Azura could synergize fairly well. But Canto, flat Canto, that Valencia Pala has, is more consistent from my usage. That's why Regan is so good. I do think that, and I mentioned this with the holoforms with Valencia Catria, that I feel like because now this confirms it, that Est has Canto built in, that I'm assuming that the refine on Valencia Catria will likely also have some sort of Canto once that refine happens. Similar to what like happened with Sumia, where we got somebody with flat Canto. If you remember, that was one of the first Canto refines we ever got. And I'm expecting Catria to follow suit and also have some sort of Canto built in. Anyways, the weapon itself, besides the Canto Rem, is an initiation clause or 2 space with allies. Super easy to meet, if you ask me. 5 to all stats. Again, this is like just pasted onto every weapon at this point, and has true damage based on her res. You can expect her res to likely be like high 30s or 40s, something like that. And she just has a DR on that first hit. So, nice, but eh. Melee flyers don't really impress me nowadays. They're very, very niche where you use them. Something like potentially Gale Force strats, potentially Summoner Duels like Palo, where you're just kind of hit and running. So maybe something like that. Next up is Kamui with the infantry sword. Yay! Feel like we just had these back to back to back to back, and he's the demote here or the 4-star focus, but he's definitely a demote post banner. Comes with speed defense ideal 3 in the permapull. That's pretty cool. Attack defense 03. That's also decent. So at least the fodder is nice. And finally, upfront blade, which is a attack speed type Bond 4. I want to call it neutralizing penalties attack speed with a 75% HP condition. This is not a terrible weapon to inherit. I do like the auto double type weapons we got on the seasonal banner that just passed, and having these neutralized penalty weapons are also pretty decent. It's probably outclassed by the Winter Manuela weapon though, the Winter Rapier, which had, I believe, Unity, because Unity is a little bit better than neutralizing penalties. But at least this is in the perma pool, and the Winter Rapier off of Manuela is not in the permanent pool yet, but this is still a solid inheritable weapon. Anything that has to do with like penalties and such is going to do pretty well, or auto doubles. So decent fodder. Nothing to really say about Kamui, as I really don't think he has any relevance. Anyone who doesn't come with a preference weapon, despite whatever stat spread they have, it's just not going to be relevant. As a grander problem, feel free to tell me in the comments what you think the solution to that is. How do you make characters like Galzus and Scathatch and now Kamui? How do you make these units relevant? How do you make these GHBs and Tempest Trials units without a preference weapon relevant? I've said for a while that I feel like a weapon reforge or forgery type weapon refines, where you can add actual effects on a weapon as opposed to just stats, could be a good way to make older units relevant. Anyways, we have the Tempest Trials unit here. I'm gonna get the pronunciation right. What's her name again? Who are you?
I am Ymir.
Ymir? Okay, Ymir. Okay. So Ymir is a Cav Dragon. Good way to release Cav Dragons in the game, I guess. So green Cav Dragon. We have now, I think we have now every color with Niffle, Muspel, the seasonal Niffle, which was colorless, and now green here. And Ymir here comes with the Res Near Traces. Res Near Traces are cool. I think they're really good on a bunch of Flyer Dragons. And of course, the Cav Dragons will appreciate them quite well. Keep in mind, though, that the Cav Dragons cannot use Gale Force, so they're going to be a little bit limited in that regard. But Near Trace for Dragons has always been at least something that's been desired. First thing I'll talk about is her as a unit first and her preference weapon. So to kind of try to summarize this one, it looks like it's going to be a heal based on rallies or movement assist skills. This reminds me of the Sugar Ray Refine, where he was like healing himself and his allies if they used like rallies or positionals. I don't remember which one it was, but yeah, this is okay. The neutralized penalty part is also kind of sus, whether that's good or not. The reason I don't really think that might be too great is, let's say you use Ymir on like defense, and you're using Unity skills. Well, neutralizing penalties makes the Unities weaker. So yeah, I'm not totally convinced you want penalties, but I guess you can sub it out for impact skills instead, let's say on defense. Or you're just going to have to not use Unities, let's say in Summoner Duels or whatnot. So it's kind of weird. It's not always going to be a good thing to remove penalties, but it's good if you do run other stuff such as Impact. And it has some synergy with something like Change Fate or Future Vision, which you would probably want on defense. So you're not only getting healing, but then removing penalties. You're removing the penalties anyways after Change Fate. I don't know. It's kind of whatever. The second part here is just a flat 5 to all stats, and she has an auto double. That's pretty much it. So the most important thing is, of course, her preference C skill, and this is kind of like deja vu, I suppose, to Niffle and Muspel. So if she's within 2 spaces, she grants defense res 4, cool, and then she has pretty much a miracle effect. That's literally what the bottom part there says. Units HP greater than 75%. And if they go to 0, they're going to survive with 1. That is very strong, definitely in modes like Summoner Duels, and again, air defense, but also potentially air offense. So as a support unit, she's going to do pretty well, because she's going to just give everyone Miracle. There is, of course, ways to beat this, so Brave Weapons will still do Brave Weapon type effects. Bridal Catria is going to still really appreciate, like Bridal Catria teams are just going to be able to just kill you twice. So this won't really matter. And then if you're trying to play into a team that uses Ymir, she can kind of make things harder to break into the team. So if you're trying to, let's say, sweep the team with like a Gale Force strat, it may not always work because you're just going to struggle to kill stuff. However, it doesn't necessarily counterplay AoE specials, which I think is a notable mention here. So if you run into, let's say you're using Yuri with like Blazing Wind and you hit them with an AoE special, well, that's going to cut their HP under 75%, and then he's just going to kill in combat. So AoE specials will not really care about this. Brave type effects will not really care about this. So it definitely has some counterplay, but it's in general a pretty good addition, pretty good support option. There's so many good support options nowadays in the game that I'm not completely overwhelmed or surprised by something like this. And it's definitely not, you need this, it's not like necessary, but it will definitely help to shape, let's say, how you want to approach certain teams. Brave weapons got better. Well, Catria was already good, but now they got better. You may want to run air offense with, let's say, something like Bridal Catria now, so you can just enable breaking through something like this. Another counterplay to this, of course, is the feud type skills. So G Feud got better, and Bramimon got better, and I guess Legendary Lyn, whatever. Anyways, so feuds got better, and just weapons or effects that don't care about your allies definitely don't care about this either. So yeah, that I don't know. The most interesting unit here definitely has to be Ymir, I guess. See, it looks like a Pokemon. It's literally a tree dragon. Her name should have been Eitri. Eat Tree. Is that our first look at Emblem? Maybe I missed it in like a previous video. It looks like our GHB isn't even shown here. I believe it was Brigand Boss. So yeah, pretty standard banner. Nothing super notable here. Confused with Celica's appearance, as if you were to pick like an Ascended hero from Shadows of Valencia, I felt it like should have been Matilda maybe, or maybe Conrad or something like that. Just thinking of like the very relevant characters from that game. Maybe even Mycen, but I guess they wouldn't make Mycen an Ascended hero. So yeah, that covers it. Again, probably a good time to save orbs for many. If you're going to spark something, there's always the Celica for the Florids, or potentially Ymir for some great support utility, whether that's on offense, defense, or Summoner Duels. That's it, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this. If you watched the end of this video, thank you as always. The least you can do is give a thumbs up to the video, so if you haven't already. And I'm going to see you guys in August, because I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. Actually going to the beach, so maybe I'll come back a little bit tanned. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being here. Love you all. See you soon. Peace.